doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Today, we are looking at Wike and Officer Yerima. Lessons for individuals and businesses from this particular event. You see, the past few days has been saturated with videos, comments, write-ups about Wike and Yerima. And we have seen Wike as he went from his office to go and look for how access to a particular land, which he claims has been illegally taken over by somebody from the military. And then military men were assigned to guard and protect that land. We're looking at the lessons today. This is not about who is right, who is not right, or who was correct or who was not correct. It's a lessons that you have to learn series, which most of the other creators are not really talking about. Instead of blaming Wike or blaming Yerima, let us look at the depth of the lessons. And if in the process of looking at these lessons, we touch your favorite, bear with us and then just keep picking up the lessons. Lesson number one that you need to learn from this particular event that has happened is a lesson on passion. Passion, persistence, refusal to give up, refusal to bow in the face of opposition, and continuous push to gain access to what you really deserve in life or what you really want in life. You see Wike in one of the clips where he was repeatedly saying, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can never. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
That's a statement of passion. Yes, you may want to argue about the application of the passion, the application of the determination, the drive, the energy, but that's subject for another conversation. The key thing is this: regardless of where you are coming from, your background doesn't matter so much to your success. Regardless of the opposition you meet, the stones, the walls, the rocks that you meet along the way, most of those things don't matter. And now, to Wike, it didn't matter that the soldiers were there, and to the soldier, it didn't matter that Wike came. Although we know the person who eventually left the place, the lesson there is it doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter what your present challenges are. If you persist, if you insist, if you stand your ground without shaking, you're very much likely to get to where you really want to be. Number two lesson is the fact that the military operates under a command and control structure.
What?
Because the military operates a command and control, you really cannot expect a military man to take orders from who they would call a bloody civilian. And somebody like Wike, who has been a governor before, should understand this, because I believe he has worked with military men before. We are not here to talk about the outcomes of his collaborations with security agencies, but definitely Wike is somebody who has worked with security agencies. He understands the structure of the security agencies in Nigeria. He knows what command and control is. To go to that place and begin to try to pressure the man is something that's, well, maybe improperly guided decision, or maybe it was actually an outcome of somebody who has used the security agencies in certain ways before, maybe during elections, to do certain things, and then felt the boldness to walk into the place and talk to the military anyhow. The military does not take orders from anybody outside their superiors. It is a command and control situation. Now, what's the lesson for you? As a person, you need to come to a point in life where you put yourself under that discipline of command and control, where you control your desires, control your spending, control your flesh, put all of these components of you in check and under control, such that you are not moved, you are not acting against the big picture, or you're not taking steps that work against your dreams, because eventually your future is a product of your present routine actions. If you're able to discipline yourself to do only the things that will lead you to your desired destination, you see yourself getting there. But command and control is operational in the military, and you should be able to adopt that into your own life or into your own business. Lesson number 3 from the Wike Yerima or Wike officer event is the fact that who you talk to really matters in life. All right, and a number of people that Wike could have spoken to bring that situation under control without even having to go there. He could have, of course, called the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Nigeria, the president, who whose order the army is under obligation to obey. He could have as well called and spoken to the Minister of Defense, who then could pass down instructions to every other person across the military ranks. He could have spoken to the direct boss of that particular individual in the place. Well, he decided to walk to the place himself and challenge the people who were there. The lesson for you is this: if you walk in line with gravity, then you are favored because the laws of nature are with you. But if you decide to go and walk against the laws of gravity by trying to force your way from bottom up, you often find resistance along that place. Like you would see the officer refuse to go, and his refusal to go was because there is a higher authority over him who had instructed him to remain there. Wike could have spoken to those authorities, and then they passed the information down very easily to him. Pick your battles very carefully. Don't go fighting the people who you are not supposed to fight. Know who your opponents are. For Wike and the officer, they are on different levels in the real sense. No matter how you want to think about it, Wike has achieved certain levels in society which the officer may or may never achieve. The officer himself has done certain things in the military which Wike may never also do. But Wike has been a man in power for a while, and he should have known the right persons to talk to. His opponent is not the officer Yerima. His opponent should have been the Minister of Defense that he should have engaged to bring that situation under control. Engage at your level, or engage at levels above you when you are operating outside your department. If your department is one unit, and that's the unit where you have authority to give instructions, and you need to give an instruction to somebody who is lower than your rank in that department that's outside yours, by all means, operate at your own level, speak to their bosses, speak to the people over them who are at your own level or who are above you, so that even if, for instance, you lose in that speech or you lose in that engagement, people would say that at least you were engaging somebody at your level or engaging somebody above you. In that case, a win or a lose is not really bringing you shame. But if you engage somebody who is much lower than yourself in terms of rank anywhere in the world and you happen to lose, then the shame becomes very big. And you can see what is going on the internet with a Wike, for instance. If Wike had spoken to the Minister of Defense and something like this came up, the whole of the internet will not be as ablaze as it is today. The other thing you must learn from this is top down is in line with gravity. It's an easier solution. Don't go against gravity. And for those of you who are looking for jobs or looking for scholarships, that's why I always say, look at the people who manage or own the opportunities you are interested in. I call them gatekeepers, and you should also identify these people and work with them.
You can never develop this property. Only acting on my orders.
Lesson number 4 from Wike and Yerima's encounter is that there are certain expressions that don't win arguments. You see, the minister calling somebody a fool, trying to talk down on him because of age, trying to challenge him on that basis of, do you know who I am? All of those kind of expressions don't really win intellectual arguments. It's not in calling the person a fool. It's not in imposing yourself as the older person. It's not in shouting down the other person. In fact, in certain places, when you start shouting an argument, people look at you as somebody who does not have a point and just tries to intimidate the other people. These actions are also considered too low for somebody of Wike's level. So did Wike get it right there? No. Will you make the same mistake in the future? You learn the lesson from this, that these arguments, these statements do not win arguments. If you want to win an argument, engage constructively. Now, lesson number 5 is that who you are determines the level of support you get. Very, very important. And this is very key to brands. If you have built a brand that people love, they often find reasons to defend you. But if you have built a brand of notoriety that people do not like or people want to disassociate themselves from, then you get into a public argument or a public case, most of those people are going to turn against you. That's what we see happening on the internet today. Just recently in 2023, there was an election in Nigeria, and most of the people who are making content out of these are people whose interest Wike played a very major role in sabotaging during the 2023 election. Not that people said it, he himself has made statements that somehow point directly to his involvement in ensuring that Rivers State went the way it went during the election. Most of those people whose interests the man betrayed at that point are all against him. And that's something somebody needs to understand. If you are somebody who wants public support, then you need to build a brand that the public can relate with, be able to sympathize with, a brand that the public will love, a brand that the public can associate with and support with their full chest. Don't be a Wike and expect public support in Nigeria, because the people who dominate the internet conversation in Nigeria are people whose interest, one way or the other, the man had betrayed. What you saw is a case of the enemy of my enemy. That's the kind of thing playing out just in these few days. And again, the statement of do you know who I am, still in secondary school when I had graduated, all of those statements brought ageism into the conversation. It became a question of what is the age of the person we are supporting. If this one is closer to our age, then we support him. If this person is not as close to our age, we can also do away with him, because in the first place, drawn the line of the age battle. Now, these are some of the lessons that you can learn. You need to implement this into your life as a business or as an individual. But there are some insights to all of these things, or that we can draw from all of these things. Number one insight is that land ownership in Abuja is something that Nigerians need to start questioning. Because when we look at the Wike Yerima situation, Wike is saying that that land was taken without the right documentations and approval. And whoever gave out the land should have something to explain to Nigerians. It's high time that the government goes back to probe into all the land ownerships that happened in Abuja. This is not just all the case that we've seen. There are lots of other cases like that. And there are even accusations that the minister himself is grabbing land and reassigning those land to people who associate with him. There is a need at the moment to go into that land registry in Abuja, look at all the lands that have been assigned, all the lands that are pending assignment, and all the lands that will be assigned, to ensure that they go through proper processing and proper approval before they leave the coffers of the government into the hand of anybody. After all deserve to understand what is going on with the land in Abuja, and this should also trickle down to all the state capitals in Nigeria. All those use of land to settle political friends and to settle business friends or whoever they are and settle family members is something that needs urgent attention at the moment in Nigeria. Insight number two, the military. Now, we see that the military man, Yerima, was obeying an order. But we also need to understand that the highest order, or the primary order that a military man should obey in Nigeria, is the constitution. The constitution of the country should be the highest command that every military person must follow. And that's why you see in certain countries that when somebody, a politician, deploys the military to go and fight against the civilians, when they go out for protest, the military can revolt. The military can say, no, we are not going to do this because this order is contrary to the constitution of our country. We've not seen this happen in Nigeria so much. We've seen the military intimidate people in protest. We've seen the military fire at people in protest and all that kind of thing. We also need to understand that the military should be able to take instructions directly from the constitution and refuse commands that are against the constitution of the country. The military works by command and control, but the military should not be deployed to protect individual lands, private property. We don't know the constitution of Nigeria that gives approval to the military to deploy somebody to go and protect personal property. If all the information we see on the internet are correct, that land was being taken over by somebody, then it's not proper that the military of Nigeria should be deployed to protect personal land when the country is suffering from lots of insecurity challenges. And of course, the military can obey the constitution and refuse to take instructions that go against that constitution. Insight number three is also again on the military. The problem that we seem to have in Nigeria with insecurity is beginning to look like it's not a problem of execution. like officers on the battlefield, officers who execute commands, it seems to be that the command is not really properly given out. It seems to be a command problem rather than an execution problem. Because if you look at Officer Yerima and how he stood his ground based on operating on order, then we would be in good position to assume that if a similar order was given against insurgency in a particular area, then the military was instructed not to back down until insurgency is conquered in that particular area, and then the military is equipped to conquer insurgency in that particular area, we probably should have seen many of these insurgency troubled areas delivered completely. It doesn't seem to be a problem of execution, it seems more like a problem of command. This is on the assumption that the execution level of the military are all complying to orders, as Officer Yerima complied to that order that gave him the morale to not leave that particular place where he was standing. Insight number 4 is for Nigerians. You can't hide something forever. That's the point. Whatever you are doing today is something that you cannot really hide for all the days of your life, or even maybe after your life. Because look at it this way, the person who took that land probably never envisaged a Wike coming into the equation. But here we are today. We now know that the land was assigned to somebody. We now know that the military is even deployed to protect the land. We now know all of these things. The point of the matter is nothing can be hidden forever. And this, of course, is a divine law. You can't hide it forever. And that's why you need to be careful with the kind of things you get yourself involved in, the kind of things you put your hands into. Nothing can be hidden forever. Another insight from this is the police and the army in Nigeria need to improve their alignment. All right, they need to improve their alignment. But the army also has some lessons to learn from the police. And I'm going to tell you some of those lessons just shortly. From what happened between Yerima and Wike, we see that the army does not really have that regard for the police. Because Yerima was quite calm, speaking calmly with all due respect to Wike and all that. Even when Wike was calling him a fool, he kept saying, "I am not a fool." He was saying that gently, even though standing his ground. But the moment the policeman brought his mouth into it, all hell was let loose. We saw it, you saw it, even Officer Yerima saw it, the policeman also saw it, he got the message, and you know what happened and how it ended. There needs to be an improvement of alignment between the military and the police. Yes, the job they do are different, and probably hierarchy clearly defined for everybody to know and for everybody to implement. Whether you are working with a minister or whether you are working with the president at any given time, you need to understand the structure of leadership and hierarchy. Now, the lesson for the army from the police. You see, the Nigerian police lost the support of the Nigerians to a large extent. And this was because Nigerians began to see the police getting involved in things that we did not expect them to get involved in. And when the police now calls the Nigerians their friend, we know how friendly this friendship can be. The army also needs to learn that if you decide to engage so much in interrupting civilian activities, the civilians may also begin to lose respect for the army. Forget the fact that the people are supporting Yerima in this case, but the understanding that the military is deploying people to protect private property will not do the Nigerian military any good in terms of public relations. The people are going to start losing regard for the army if this particular trend continues. This is a lesson from the police that the military can learn and implement. Now, what is the way ahead? First of all, the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Nigeria needs to come into this particular situation and intervene. Yes, Wike is an agent of the president because he works for the president, obviously, but the president is the only person in that particular government that the army is under obligation to take instructions from. If that land was wrongly assigned and Jonathan did not do anything about it, Buhari did not do anything about it, then the current president needs to do something about it, because now this particular event is public knowledge. We know that this is happening, and the press should press on the commander-in-chief to intervene, either to assign the land properly to the military man who claims ownership of it, or to the military who claim ownership of it, or to return the land back to civilian use, as Wike is pushing for. Number 2, way ahead, stop sharing land to the top. Public land is public land. It doesn't belong to political friends. It doesn't belong to business friends. It doesn't belong to family members. The land that belongs to the people should belong to the people and should be treated as belonging to the people, used for the interest of the people and in the interest of the people, not using the land to settle political allies. This is something that even the state governments should actually get very active on to stop and to control. It should be a past story that land is used and given out from state coffers to individuals whose contribution to the government the people have not recognized or approved of. Number 3, in the way ahead, the details of all the land gifts that have been given out to politicians in Nigeria needs to be investigated, needs to be explained to the public, and revocations need to happen where they are necessary. This is very important, because otherwise, what is the basis of trust on the government? Way ahead, number 4, you need to revoke all this wrongly apportioned land. Explain the details and revoke all the wrongly assigned land. Then the final thing on the way ahead is the military needs to be deployed to do their primary job. We are tired of hearing stories like there are bandits who invade Nigeria from neighboring countries. There are bandits who cross the border and come into the country and are causing havoc in the country. The primary purpose of the military should be the primary assignment of the military to protect territorial integrity of Nigeria. Is not to protect the integrity of private landed property within Nigeria. It is, in the first place, to protect the territorial integrity of Nigeria. We can't continue to have the military serving private individuals when the borders of the country is being invaded, as we got to know in the previous administration, that these people who are killing people in Nigeria are not from Nigeria in some cases. When we have a military that has the capacity and has the reserve of soldiers to go protect private land, every Nigerian should now be demanding that the military be deployed to do their primary assignments. These are the lessons. I believe you learned something from this, and if you have learned anything from this series on lessons and insights from the Wike and Yerima situation, then go ahead and share this video before I give you the last situation. You see, the man Wike is a politician. And every politician, it's always an asset for politicians to be in limelight. And if you look at the man Wike, he has mastered this craft of creating noise around himself. And that noise that he creates around himself is fundamental to political relevance. That's why when you see him, he talks about people who do not have political value. You see the guy constantly in the media calling press conferences here and there. The moment that event happened, he granted an interview to the press where he tried to control the narrative. And you see him call additional press conferences trying to control that narrative, because this is a situation that has put him in public light, giving him a lot of visibility. And if he's able to manage that visibility and control that story to become a story of I am fighting to return public land to the public coffers without and convince the people that this return was for the good of the public, then the man would have mastered the game and taken advantage of this particular situation. Those who fade away are the people who refuse to show up in public domain. But somebody like Wike, who keeps showing up in public domain, will always have political relevance, because after all, he said that 80% of your success is in your showing up. The man is going to show up, and the reason he keeps showing up is because he needs to be remembered. He needs to always stay in touch, and that's the lesson for you. If you don't show up, you will easily be forgotten. The reason is not because people want to forget you or because you don't have the skills. The reason is because people are distracted so much in the present world that they forget the man or the woman who refuses to show up. It doesn't matter what the level of your professionalism is. It doesn't matter how relevant or how intelligent you are. It doesn't even matter whether how tall or how short you are. The moment you stop showing up, the people begin to forget you. And that is what you see Mr. Wike doing. He went on to try to control that conversation, and if he manages to turn this narrative successfully, then he would have played a very smart game in this one. If you found this useful, and you think Nigeria needs to see this, then you go ahead and share this video with all your friends. Tag Wike and even Yerima to the comment section of this video, because they probably missed out in these lessons that we've shared here. They were the actors, but they probably did not recognize the lessons in their actions. Academy of Scholarships and Transitions, see you in the comment section. Not on the next one. We want to see you in the comment section and on the share button. Let's go now. Bye.